is the Kev Baker Show. Seeking answers to age-old questions, deciphering the world painted around you by the mainstream media. This is the Kev Baker Show. And now, here is your host, Kev Baker.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be out there. A big, huge, massive, warm welcome to this, the Kev Baker Show, on Wednesday night with me, your host, Kev Baker, obviously, guys. And I've obviously got the Woo crew with me of Johnny Whistles and Big Marty. I hope everyone out there in the chat and on the streams are doing well tonight. And what a show we have got for you. And it kind of rolls on from the 3-hour extravaganza that we had last night. But before we get there, and to tonight's guest and good friend, let me first introduce onto the show, Mr. Whistles. How you doing, man?
Fantastic, Kev. Really looking forward to tonight's show. Been looking forward to this one all day, in fact, so brilliant. Looking forward to it. Woohoo!
And Johnny, I think I'm going to have to stop calling you Whistles because that sound effect, it's almost gone. Dogs are safe.
I know. Dogs are safe all over the world. Oh, I know.
I'm sure
I'll get it back.
We'll think of something else for you, Johnny. I'm sure of it. And of course, no Kev Baker Show would be complete without the other man himself, Big Marty. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, still coming down from last night's shows. Absolutely enjoyed them. Great stuff. If you haven't heard the show we did with Popeye last night, guys, go and check it out in the archives.
And Marty, just to let the listeners that have heard that and the ones that will hear that know, that was totally unscripted. I dropped that on you. I can't remember if it was just pre-show or even during the show. And then something like that evolved out of nothing. And that's the chemistry that takes place here on TFR. It really is something very, very special. And a lot of that chemistry comes from the fact we've got the chat room as well. So I'm going to go in there, I'll give a few people a shout out, and then we'll get right into it because we really are needing all the time in the world tonight. So first up, we've got Kiwi, we've got Doc, Jan for Peace, myself, Marty Whistles, Kevin, we've got Dartmoor Dog, Gergs, Kev T, Eviled 2, The Tinfoil Man, excellent YouTube channel, check that out, Ted Welsh, Nugget, Donald, Lazy Aussie. Aren't they all lazy over there? I'm only joking. Tempest will come and hunt me down for that one. We've got the Time Lord, we've got Balder, and then we've got Start the Oracle, NC, Russell Brand, Kevster Man, Agent Smithy. That's going to be very, very relevant tonight. You're going to be a busy man. And then we've got Red Inky, hell yeah, Aussie Anzac, Angel Whispers, International Fake Station, is it or isn't it? We've got Papa Bear, John Teeter was here, when is he here? There he is, who knows? Igor 90, do you want to know? Two Hats, DJ Pithers, Transpersonals, we've got the Truth Script, we've got James Goddard, I Enjoy a Fat Joint, Don't We All, the one and only Stushy, Factory Rat, Danis, Ant-Man, Sheep Enchanter, oh, you know me too well. We've got the Wide Awake Club, we've got DJ B2, we've got Popeye, the man himself, more from him in a moment, Mystical Fairy, we've got an Anon in there, Cat House, We Free, Cloud, Icon and Summer. 53 in the chat room, guys. Absolutely brilliant. Your continued support, it means all the world to us. So then, into tonight's show. As I'm saying, we're going to be following on from last night, and we ended up on Popeye's show, an epic broadcast. So tonight, we're going to have Popeye on the Kev Baker Show, and he's going to be talking to us all about the Matrix. Now, because this is such a deep subject, Popeye is going to be referring you to other podcasts and presentations that will run alongside this, obviously, after the show's finished. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring on my good friend, the man responsible, along with Joe Joseph, for getting me into this madness, host of Down the Rabbit Hole, Mr. Popeye. How's it going, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey,
Hello
man.
to you.
It's good to be on air with you again. Seems
Good.
like we were just here yesterday.
You enjoy last night, man? I'm still buzzing from it.
Epic broadcast. I'm actually working on the archive. I'll have it up on YouTube tonight, and I will put it out on Twitter and Facebook. And then I will obviously send you links, and I know Kev will re-upload it to his YouTube channel as well for all of you to hear for free. And you can always go over to popeyeradio.com, shameless plug, and you'll be able to download the audio for free there. And of course, go to truthfrequencyradio.com and get a subscription. And that was an epic broadcast last night.
Definitely. And all the listeners know that I dipped my toe into the TV shows, and one in particular really resonated with me over the past couple of weeks. It's a new season on Netflix, a new series called Sense, and then the figure 8. And it's all one word. And the reason that I wanted to watch it in the first place was the fact that it was directed by the same directors as The Matrix. Now, when it comes to The Matrix, folks, there's no better person to bring onto the show to speak about that. So I've invited Popeye tonight to break that down for us. And it'll tie in really well with last night's Nature of Reality, I should think, Popeye.
I would say so, because we talked about the reference to the matrix itself that we live in, this matrix of control and waking up. And that's actually what the movies are all about, gentlemen. So if you'd like, we can get right into it. If you'd like to just dive right into the deep end, shall we?
Take it away, Popeye. Come on, tell us about the spoon and stuff. What's going on, man?
Well, first and foremost, very first and foremost, if you understand something, understand a very simple truth, that these movies are not just entertainment, they are allegories. All three of them. It's important to watch all three. I know the first one was cool, and then most people were like, the other two sucked. I don't know why anybody even bothers to, pay attention to them or watch them, and they're horrible. The reason why they sucked is because they didn't understand what the first one was about. So if you don't wake up with the first one, you're still stuck. You're obviously not going to get to step 2 if you don't understand step 1, right? You can't run or take part in a marathon unless you can learn how to walk. If you're still crawling, there is no running. So that's why many people didn't understand that the movies weren't really about entertainment. They're actually allegories. So what are they allegories for? Well, the 3 movies, basically, you can sum it up in one word each, or 2 words, I should say, but each one of them represents an idea. The first one is what, the second one is why, the third one is how. Now, what am I referring to? I'm referring to everything that's going on, this matrix of control that we live in, what's actually taking part in our reality right now. You have to have an open mind when you watch these films. Don't look at it as entertainment value. And I urge you all to go watch the 3 films after you hear this broadcast, but not before you go listen to 2 other things. And I'm going to throw that out first and foremost, because I would be remiss in my duties as a host and as a friend to the man who brought a lot of this information to the forefront in my mind back in 2010 into 2011. And that would be my good friend, Mr. Mark Passio, who's been on my broadcast about 100,000 times. His website is whatonearthishappening.com. And if you don't know it, go introduce yourself to it. Now, he did a broadcast with me back in 2012 called The Matrix Trilogy Decoded. It's over on federaljack.com. Just go over to federaljack.com. In the little search bar, type in The Matrix Trilogy Decoded. I'll drop the link in the chat. You can listen to that broadcast. Listen to that. Listen to this show that I'm doing tonight with the KBS crew here. And go to YouTube and type in Matrix Trilogy. Type in Mark Passio Matrix Trilogy Decoded. And it'll bring up his speech at the Free Your Mind conference. I think it was the second one. And because he did that a couple days after we did the show together. We did the show to advertise the fact that the Free Your Mind conference was coming up, and that he was going to be, or I think it was a couple months after he did the conference. There was, I think it was the next day or the 2 days later, he did the breakdown of this. He did the Matrix Trilogy Decoded breakdown in Philly as a fundraiser for it. That's what it was. Anyway. So go watch the video the presentation that he actually gave. Because Mark, we only had, with breaks, I think it was like an hour and 32 minutes. The presentation's like 2 hours and 2 minutes, 2 hours and 5 minutes, something like that. So there's like another half hour of a little bit more in-depth info on certain characters in the movies, which you need to understand the totality of this whole thing. So I urge you to go watch the trilogy again, without a doubt. Go watch the Matrix Trilogy again. But before you do, and you try to analyze it, the best thing to do would be to go listen to the broadcast that I did with Mark, and go listen and watch Mark's. It's not just listening, it's also a visual thing, because he has slides and stuff in the presentation he did at the Free Your Mind conference. And I urge you to go research. This is not something that you can fully comprehend and understand by listening to a 2-hour radio broadcast. If you want to be the change and be part of the solution, you have to make the effort. It's part of the answer to it, which I'll get into. The action. You'll hear me bring up the word action again. Remember that word. So make sure you check out the Matrix Decoded, Matrix Trilogy Decoded over on federaljack.com that I did with Mark. And then go check out Mark Passio's full Matrix Trilogy Decoded breakdown on YouTube, the video, his visual presentation of it. And go to his website, whatonearthishappening.com. Now, I would have been remiss in my duties if I didn't take a few minutes to tell you all about that stuff and point to you, because this is how deep this really goes. So, the Matrix. It's one of the reasons I use, by the way, the visuals I do from the Matrix, because when I first started doing my radio show, I understood all this. Like I was already at this level of awareness by the time I had started doing radio. Hence why the name of the show is Down the Rabbit Hole. It's a slight reference to actually Through the Looking Glass, which was the original title of the story that became Alice in Wonderland, which is what the Matrix theme kind of is. You're going through the looking glass. And I use some of the Matrix visuals, and I often talk about the movie because it's an allegory. So, the first film, the what? It's the problem. The conspiracy, so to speak. What's going on? The Matrix itself. The construct. What it is. Understanding what it is. At the end of the film, that's where it ends with Neo coming to the understanding of what the Matrix actually is. He finally understands. He learns. Interestingly enough, the actual speech at the end of the Matrix was edited. And I've actually recited the original text on air, which I will tonight too, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the movie itself is about the what. It's about what's going on, about understanding the problem. Now, what do we often say? What did we say last night when we were talking about creating our own reality? That if you're putting out this fear vibe, if you're plugged into this fear vibe, you're creating this prison-type existence. You're helping creating this matrix. Well, that's part of understanding. That's part of this true understanding. That's what Neo goes through in that whole first film. He's awakening, his enlightenment. Morpheus, Neo, and Trinity represent thought, emotion, and action. Morpheus is thought. That would be like you coming and listening to this broadcast right now. Tuning in and listening to KBS and listening to Kev, Marty, and Whistles, and myself. That's the thought, like you're thinking outside the box. Emotion, Trinity, the sacred feminine, which you hear often referred to. That's what they burn and try to destroy in the cremation of care. Care is the sacred feminine. Trinity represents emotion. Action, which is Neo. Bringing thought and emotion together and acting on it. That's the Holy Trinity. Don't anybody, Christians, get all mad at me for saying that. That's what it represents in the movie. The Trinity. Thought, emotion, and action coming together as one. Which is what all of you do when you go out and you listen and you, like if I go on air on my show and I pontificate about being the change and actually doing stuff, well, if you listen to that and you actually go out and you apply that thought, emotion, action, You listened with an open mind, thought. You plugged into your emotion, the sacred feminine, found your humanity, and action. You went out and did it. Say you go out and you start just giving food to the homeless. You see a homeless guy in the street. You're walking down the street and you see a homeless guy sitting there. Nobody's giving him quarters or anything, and you look over and there's a Chick-fil-A or something. And even though it's fast food garbage, you go and you buy it. Whatever. Maybe there's a deli. Maybe there's a pizzeria. Whatever. You pick up food for him. You come over and give it to him. Thought, emotion, action. You thought outside the box. You thought differently and more enlightened than the other people just passing him by and saying, what a scum. Emotion. You felt for him as a fellow human being. Action. You went and actually partook and got him some food and brought it to him. That's being the change. That's what that represents. That's what the first movie represents, is waking up and taking part in that and what the problem is. Because once you see what the problem is, then that's when Neo, he joined forces with them and they're fighting the agents and everything else, right? He woke up. That was his enlightenment. You're Neo. Before I go any further with this, I have to make that point clear. You, ladies and gentlemen, are Neo. There is no one savior that's going to come help you and save the world with sunglasses and going to fly in. You are that man or woman. You are Neo. And I'll get more into what Neo means and everything else in a minute. Thought, emotion, and action, ladies and gentlemen. So, at the end of the first film, at the end of the very first film, what happens? Even though they're running around and they figured a lot of things out and they rescued Morpheus and everything else, Neo gets shot and he is killed in the Matrix. He is killed. He dies. Well, kind of.
Yeah.
But he's resurrected, is he not? There's also some religious themes there too, but he's kind of resurrected. What resurrects him? You guys realize what resurrected him? Care. Trinity. He was laying there, supposedly dead, and she says, you can't die, Neo, because I love you. Her love, care, the sacred feminine, brought him back. Do you see what that's representative of? Not living in fear, because that brings death. You embrace love, and what happened to Neo's heart? It started to beat. And he stood up. Agent Smith and the other two agents turn around and they look. And Smith raises his guns and they raise their guns and they just fire, because that's what they know how to do. Death, violence. That's their at right then and there, that's the system. And what does Neo say? That's also, the bullets are representative of their power, or their supposed power and authority. And they just wield it. Without even really paying half attention, they just raise their weapons and fire. And what does Neo say? He raises his hand and he says the magic word, ladies and gentlemen. He says, no. And the bullets stop. Now, do I think that in the real world, if you walk out in front of a cop and say, no, the bullets will stop? No, I don't. But the allegory that the bullets represent is their power being projected like a bullet, like a projectile at you. You saying no and Neo stopping the bullets and it falling is you saying no. When he says no, that's you saying no. I will not give in to you. I will not just let you put me down. I will not let you control me and abuse me. No. I will not let you keep me in base modality, base level thinking. 666, as I've said 1,000 times before. That's what that's representative of. You coming up out of it and saying, no, I'm done. thought, emotion, and action coming together, the Trinity. Now, at the end of the film, you can see when Neo calls the Matrix, the architect, whatever you want to call it. I guess you can call it the Grand Architect, because that's the grand. And I'll tell you, I'll get into what the Grand Architect is representative of in a minute. But the original script was changed when he makes that phone call and then flies off. The one that's in the film is actually edited down, and it's drastically changed from what was actually put in there. Now, according to, and this goes back to at least, I think 2003, if you go look it up in the wikis and stuff, the Matrix fan wikis and stuff, and you'd be surprised how much info you can actually learn from the fanboy crowd, on these different forums, because they research into this stuff. So if you're going to look into this stuff like we are tonight, sometimes that's a good place to go look stuff up. Anyway, so going back to 2003, this has been out there. There's a ton of info out there, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to go look for it. But I want to read you the original text. And they supposedly changed it because the word chrysalis is in it, and they were afraid people would be confused. Supposedly. I think it was changed for other reasons, but if you listen to the verbiage, it's much more powerful than the original one. Now, we don't have time to read, I don't want to waste time and read both, or confuse you. You can go watch the Matrix ending and watch the ending speech, or just look it up on YouTube. But I'm going to read you the edited one. And so you know, chrysalis just means cocoon when you hear it. The word chrysalis means cocoon. So I'm going to read you the original scripted ending speech from the Matrix movie when Neo calls the Grand Architect. Here we go. I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I imagine you can also feel me. You won't have to search for me anymore. I'm done running. Done hiding. Whether I'm done fighting, I suppose, is up to you. I believe deep down, we both want this world to change. I believe that the Matrix can remain our cage, or it can become our chrysalis. That's what you helped me to understand. That to be truly free, you cannot change your cage. You have to change yourself. When I used to look out at this world, all I could see was its edges, its boundaries, its leaders, and laws. But now I see another world, a different world where all things are possible, a world of hope, of peace. I can't tell you how to get there, but I know if you can free your mind, you'll find the way. That's very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read you part of that again. I believe that the Matrix can remain our cage, or it can become our chrysalis, meaning it can become a prison cage or a cocoon. We all know what happens in cocoons. Transformation. That's what you helped me to understand. That to be truly free, you cannot change your cage. You have to change yourself. You guys understand how deep and profound that is? I don't know why they didn't leave that in the movie. I mean, there's probably a bazillion reasons why, but they should have left it. Maybe people would have been confused, but then you force people to go look up the word chrysalis. You make them think.
Maybe that's why they took it out, Popeye. Maybe then it would have made them realize what it was all about.
Well, see, it's very profound what they're saying. What he's saying, and I know the break's sneaking up here, so I'll get this. I'll compact this here so we can get into the other two movies on the other side. But what he's saying in that ending speech is you can't, if you fight the system, the cage that we're supposedly in is part of this construct. It's made for you to fight it. So the outcome is always going to be the same. The only way Neo was, like, when they kept fighting the agents, and eventually their fellow people, their fighters, whatever, would get killed. And it was this repetitive cycle, and they just kept going over and over and over and over and over again, right? How did they change that? Well, because Neo finally changed and enlightened. Thought, emotion, and action all were working in unison. He enlightened himself, and their method of control when he said no, and they fired the bullets at him and he stopped them, that's representative of him becoming, their power is no longer relevant. You know how I say the New World Order or the New World Order agenda, the people that push it, will be, the way to defeat it is to make them irrelevant? That's what that's representative of. Their power is no longer relevant because that person is at a higher level. So he changed himself. He's no longer fighting the cage. He elevated himself to a different level so the cage can no longer hold him, because it was only constructed to hold him in that one, as Neo was. But as he transformed and enlightened, they couldn't control him anymore.
Wow, there you go, folks. Power is like the spoon. There is no power. You have to break free of this cage, and we'll be doing more of that on the other side with Popeye. Absolutely fantastic. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
And again, I urge people to go do further research, guys. And thank you for that, Marty. And I do urge the listeners to don't just take what I say to be gospel. I want you to go research this and go watch the films after you watch the presentation by Mark, and you listen to the radio show I did with him, and you listen to this broadcast maybe one more time again. Go back and watch the 3 movies, and you'll take notes. You'll be surprised, I promise you. So anyway, and by the way, there's tons of stuff that I left out in the first film, like different things to point out. That's why you got to go watch Mark's presentation, because I only have an hour to fit all this in, and Mark has 2 hours and 2 minutes and slides and everything, so it's a little easier for him to do it. But I'm trying to put this out there and show you that there's a message right in front of your face. If you're willing to open your eyes, you have to make that choice. So anyway, the second movie. So the first movie is about the what. The second movie is the why of things. Okay? And also, before I go further, I want to just give 4, or I guess 5, or 4, let me count. 1, 2, 3. I think you have 4 character breakdowns. So you have Smith, who is representative of death, the destroyer of things. Okay? The opposite of Neo. Smith is black, Neo is white. Darkness and light. You get it? Smith is evil. He's death. He's literally representative of blackness, darkness, death. And Neo is representative of the Christ consciousness, light. That's what, in fact, in the end of the third film, which I'll get into, there's a visual representation of that. And Mark, actually, in his slideshow presentation, has a great still shot of it. He got a great still shot from the movie where you can clearly see what's in the... But things happen so fast in a movie. The visuals, remember, it's there for your subconscious. It's not there for your conscious mind to pick up. It's there for your subconscious mind to pick up. So, the second movie, the why of things, reason, purpose. You hear that constantly throughout the second film. Remember that, because you'll see it when you go watch the second film. Smith, when he's fighting Neo at one point.
Okay, folks, we are back. Hopefully not sounding like we're on the Titanic instead of breaking down the actual Matrix tonight. Popeye, over to you, man.
So, anyway, the Merovingian, he's one of the key characters in the second film. And if you go watch it, if you go pay attention to the second film, it's actually, again, great movie, great. You got to pay attention and don't try to, and not entertainment. It's an allegory. You'll get it, and you'll actually get into it if you look at it from that angle. The Merovingian is a key character. Okay. He says when they're at the table in this scene, like Passio has said, and I've preached about this, that people usually kind of like go past the scene and don't pay attention to it. They kind of just think it's like really, they fast forward through it, whatever. Maybe it's boring to them. They don't understand what's being said. But that scene where they're sitting in the club and they're trying to get the key maker, and he says to him, he says, why are you here? And he says, we want the key maker. And he says, no, that's not why. That's a what, a who. Why do you want the key maker? Why? Because they didn't understand. They didn't understand the why. They were still in the what. You get it? The reference? They we're not on the same page. So what does the Merovingian say? You can't have him. I see no reason to give him to you. No reason at all. Meaning they didn't understand the reason. They didn't understand the why. Now, Mark and I have gotten deeper into that, but we don't have time to focus solely on the Merovingian right now. I urge you, okay, to go over to my Facebook page. I posted, go over to, just look up Popeye DTRH on Facebook. On my Facebook wall, I posted a picture of the Merovingian yesterday. It's something that I put up that Mark made and gave to me, and it's a meme that I've been using for years, and it's called Meet the Merovingian. In the actual interview when Mark came on, well, I shouldn't say interview because it was more of him hanging out, breaking it down with me, but when we did the breakdown of the Matrix, I cut out that scene where they're at the table from the movie, and I made it a little downloadable file so people can download it and watch it. And you'll see the interaction between them. Okay? You can go see, and you can learn a little bit more, read what Mark typed up in the description about the Merovingian. And it's actually very in-depth. It'll take you about 5 minutes to read it. I urge you to go see it. It's over on my Facebook wall. It's called Meet the Merovingian. Okay? Go Popeye DTRH. Really easy to find. Anyway, so the second movie is the why. Why is all this happening? Why is this going on? Okay? And in it, there's this battery allegory. Okay? In it, there's this battery allegory, which I want to get to, but before I forget, I want to throw the other three characters out there because I got a little sidetracked after I talked about Smith being death. The other characters that come up in the second and the third one are the architect, who is representative of the R complex, the reptilian mind, the survival mode of our brain, which, as I've said, if you're in fear, you're in survival. You're in protection. You're not in growth. You know what I mean? How many times have I talked about Bruce Lipton on my show before? A bazillion. If you don't know who Bruce Lipton is, ladies and gentlemen, go look Dr. Bruce Lipton up. Growth versus protection. So, the R complex, the reptilian mind, the architect is representative of that. The architect will do anything to survive and retain power. It's that same mindset that the quote-unquote Illuminati, which they're not the real Illuminati. The real illuminated ones are you, ladies and gentlemen, because you're waking up. They're darkly illuminated. So we should call them the dark Illuminati. But that mindset, that survival, doing anything to stay in power, that's what the architect is representative of. The architect is representative of, and in our own mind, of the reptilian R complex brain, or part of our brain that we have. Then the oracle is representative of the limbic system, the limbic brain. Okay? Intuition. And then Neo is representative of the neocortex. So there's a lot of symbolism. And throughout the film, there's references to computers. And I've said 1,000 times in my broadcast before that and I've said this to you guys too, we said this last night, we're biological computers. So there's a lot of reference to code and to computer lingo in like programming talk throughout the film in the course of the three of them. Pay attention. It's telling you something. You are the biological computer. You're also Neo. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Understand, as we talked about yesterday, we do create our own reality. So, the why, reason. So the battery allegory in the second one, and he talks about this in the first one too, but the battery allegory, and it's actually throughout all three of them, I should say. But the idea of us being the batteries, we're empowering. It's not just like, oh my God, they're reptilians from Dimension 4 who want to grind us up into meat juice and drink us like V8. And oh my God, they're going to suck our power up. No. That's not what I mean by batteries. The battery allegory is us empowering this system by being in base level thinking, in base modality, beast mode. 666, by staying in that level of thought. That's why they put so much effort into keeping you there, ladies and gentlemen. That's why. That's what the battery allegory of the whole film is about. We're empowering this Matrix system. And it's up to us to change it. It's either going to be horrible or it's going to be great. Which reality do you want? I don't want horrible. I'd rather have peace, love, harmony, living in that vibration, enlightenment, moving on, getting out of this base level of thinking. Okay? And again, there's so much more deeper stuff to the characters of the second part, including the Merovingian and that whole scene and everything else. You have to go watch Mark's breakdown, because in his slideshow, he breaks all this down. And in the interview, the breakdown him and I did on air, he does as well. So, and I keep referring you to that, ladies and gentlemen, because again, I would be remiss in my duties if I came on air and was like, I know everything. I can't possibly fit it all in 1 hour, and then that would be wrong. That would be ego. And that's not what this is about. It's about passing knowledge on to you. So I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to go do the research yourself, because again, thought, emotion, and action. You're listening with an open mind, thought. You're spurred to action because of your emotions. You're powerfully charged. You realize, wow, he speaks from a place of truth and love and knowledge. And that sparks emotion in you. It sparks love.
Poppy, that's what I was getting at last night. We have to get out of this reactionary mode that we all seem to be in. We read 2 lines on Facebook and we just run with that. We react. You really are making a lot of sense tonight with this, Popeye.
Well, Kev, that's because that's how they want us to react, brother. As I've said before, they project their fear of us onto us. They get us to think about us like they think. They're living. The architect is representative of the R complex, that reptilian brain. They're living in this survival mode. They're in survival mode. As I've said, we've already won. Humanity just hasn't realized it yet. That's all. That's what this whole fight is about. It's just getting people. The whole concept of waking up is to get people to realize their own true power. Once that happens, boof, they're irrelevant, game over, and we enlighten ourselves. And that's where we were going last night. So anyway, I see that we only got about 13 minutes left, and I'm sure you guys have a few questions. So I'll throw out the last stuff about the last film. And then again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just me briefly covering this in an hour. I urge you to go do more research. So the third movie is The How. The How, which is, everybody always asks us, oh my God, solutions. Okay, we know there's a problem, but what? And everybody always, and I'm not picking on anybody because we've all been programmed to do this. Everybody wants somebody to give them the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is you, ladies and gentlemen. You're the how. As I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job, meaning inside of you. Now, with that being said, sustained willpower, as Mark would say. The how. Getting hits to the face and keep moving forward. Not giving up is the how. What happened to Neo in the end of the film? He's fighting Agent Smith. And Agent Smith says to him, he's beating him. I mean, he's beating the living crap out of him. And he's laying in this huge craterous hole. And Smith says to him, why do you keep fighting? Like, why will you not give up? And Neo says, because I choose to. You know how powerful that is, ladies and gentlemen? Because no matter how many hits you take to the face, you keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And that's how this is going to get done. No matter what they throw at you, you stand fast. You hold the line. No matter how dark it looks, no matter how scary it looks, remember, they're going to make it look the darkest and the scariest. Because they're freaking out, because they're becoming irrelevant and they've lost. That's what the third movie is about. The third movie is about how. Because what does Morpheus say? He says, I don't know how he'll do it. Like, I don't know if he'll get to the city, if he'll make it. And I don't know how he'll stop them. But I know if he has a breath in his lungs, he will not stop. That's how you win. Sustained willpower. The will to fight. No matter what. And at the end of the film, Again, you have to go watch Passio's breakdown. Mark did a great job of this, but I want to throw this out there. In the end of the film, and you guys can ask me whatever you want. In the end of the film, the ship that him and Trinity are piloting to the Machine City is called the Logos. The word. The word is no. Like I said before. So the ship is representative of no. They're going to the Machine City to fight Defiance, right? And the ship crashes. It gets taken out and it crashes. And Trinity, representative of the sacred feminine, dies. So when you give up, when you're not willing to stand and fight and change that mindset and say no, you lose care. By the way, 9/11 was a huge cremation of care ceremony. Oh, and what's that ceremony they do out in the middle of the woods every year? Bohemian Grove? Oh, that's right. The cremation of care. The cremation of the sacred feminine.
That must be happening right about now, Popeye. It's usually not long after Bilderberg, is it not?
Yeah, it's usually around like the end of June, beginning of July sometimes. So yeah, within the next few weeks, those schmucks will be running around in the woods. Okay? Don't let them cremate care. And that's what 9/11 was also a huge cremation of care ceremony. But anyway, I digress. So, the ship crashes, Trinity dies, okay? No, at that point, fails, right? So what's left? Sacrifice. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made. And I'm not saying throw yourself on a grenade like that or anything like that, but sometimes you have to sacrifice in order to win, okay? And that's what that's representative of. So he goes, and that goes into the whole crucifixion meme and the Christ consciousness, as I said, and that's at the end when Neo dies at the very end, there's a cross appears on his chest, and he's laid out like the crucifix, again, representative of sacrifice, okay? And what he says to he says to the machines, this hive mind of machines, that this collective consciousness, when he goes to the Machine City, he says, I'm willing to, Smith, this virus, death, has gotten out of your hand, out of control. You guys created this virus, Smith, this agent, to come, take care of us, and death got out of control. Which, how many times have we seen that physical meme happen, like when they make terror groups and then their little idiots like ISIS maybe get a little out of hand here or there, or even if they let them, but still sometimes they run amok and then they have to deal with it. Oh, where have we seen that actual physical meme? So anyway, going back to the film, he says to this collective consciousness, the machines, they say, well, what do you want? He says, you can't control him anymore. He's unplugged. That's when at the beginning of the second movie, when he takes his earpiece off, Smith is now kind of like free range. He's no longer connected to the system. So the system can't stop him. So Neo says, I'll fight Smith. I'll take on death, but you have to acquiesce. We have to have some sort of peace, right? And what happens at the end of the film? The first person to put the weapon down is Morpheus, because he believes in Neo. He's, again, thought, right? So he's representative. If he drops his weapon, he's the first one. Okay, he's that open-mindedness. He's willing to give peace a try. He's willing to, as John Lennon said, give peace a chance, right? He's willing to do so. That's what that's representative of. Again, go watch Mark's breakdown of this, because he gets way more in-depth than I can in the last 6 minutes here of this. But as you can see, all three films have a lot of deeper meaning to them than most people would think. At the end of the film, okay, the one basic message is that they're talking, right, because of this peace, because of the peace bringer. The peace bringer, Neo, right? You see the Oracle, everything's back, because death, this virus that infected all the other people in the construct, is all gone. Poof, gone. Neo's gone. He sacrificed, the one sacrificed himself, meaning you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to step up to do the right thing. That's what this is representative of, ladies and gentlemen, right? You step up, do the right thing, things change for the better. Now, at the end, you see the Oracle and the Architect, and they're having a conversation, and she says to him, what about the others that are still plugged in that want to be freed? And he says, of course we'll free them. Meaning, if they want to be free, if you want to be free, ladies and gentlemen, then you can be free. You understand that? You have to want to be free. You have to choose to seek freedom, real freedom, and understanding of the way things work. There are certain things that just there are certain universal laws, and there's the universe and everything works a certain way, and we don't have mankind. When I say we, humanity doesn't have that basic understanding right now because it's been robbed from us, ripped from the collective consciousness to keep us dumbed down, to keep us in fear and easily controlled. At the end of the day, and at the end of the three movies, do you know what the answer is? Do you know what the whole moral of the whole story is after it tells you all this whole tale of what's going on and waking up and everything, and it kind of empowers you? You are Neo. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the one. You are the light at the end of your own tunnel. Kev, Whistles, Marty, and myself, and all the other great people here at TFR and all the other great people out there that do this stuff, we're just guides. We're just letting you know that along this dark path, it's okay. You're safe. We'll get you through some of the rough spots, but if we'll help you through some of the rough spots as you come to your own understanding that the light you see at the end of the tunnel is actually you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the moral of the story. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. And as I always say at the end of my broadcasts, go out and be the superheroes that I know you all are. Gentlemen?
Absolutely amazing, Popeye.
Yeah,
seriously, man. Johnny Whistles, have you got a question, man?
Yeah, what about? Can you tell me what the spoon scene was about?
Well, the kid's trying to bend the spoon. The Matrix isn't real. Remember, they're all plugged in. And he says to him, how are you bending the spoon? And the kid says, well, first you have to realize there is no spoon. You understand? The Matrix isn't real. It's a construct. You have to understand we're creating this reality. Once the kid understood that we were creating our own reality, he could bend and twist the spoon however he wanted. I know, it's deep. I just melted Whistles' brain.
Yeah, no, I get you there, mate. But it is quite deep. But there you go.
So was I right then going out to break Popeye when I said, like the spoon, we have to realise they have no power?
Yes. The power they have is what we give them. It's the illusion of power. That's the whole thing. They only have as much power as we give them. That's why we have to acquiesce. That's why they have to convince us to think like they do. That's why they project their fear and their hatred on us. They need us to pretty much police ourselves and keep us in this state because that's the only way we will stay in this state. Mind prison, Kev.
Absolute, the Tesseract. Now, Popeye, we're almost out of time. Could you give the listeners where to find those references again for what we were talking about tonight? And obviously, plug your show and your site, man.
All right. Well, first I'll do my show and site, and then I'll get into the other stuff so you guys can have that because that's equally, if not more important. So first, the site really quick, federaljack.com. You can download all of my audio archives, including the show Mark and I did on the occult aspects of 9/11 and the Matrix Trilogy Decoded over at popeyeradio.com. That's popeyeradio.com. You can, of course, hear me over at Truth Frequency right here, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. That would be, 4 to 6 Pacific. And if you want to learn more about what I talked about tonight, go over to federaljack.com. In the search bar, type in Matrix Trilogy Decoded. And also go to YouTube and type in Mark Passio, Passio, M-A-R-K, not M-A-R-C, M-A-R-K, Passio, and then type in Matrix Trilogy Decoded and watch the 2-hour-long presentation Mark did at the Free Your Mind conference. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, as I always say to you, the solutions to our problems really are an inside job. I believe in you. I know the crew here at KBS does. Just believe in yourself. Realize what's going on. Realize your true potential. And we win. That's it, guys.
Absolutely fantastic. You can catch Popeye tomorrow night, right after our show at midnight in the UK. And then also on Freaky Friday with myself, the rest of the Woo crew, Joe Joseph and JD Moore. They're going to be coming up right after the break. And they've got on James Perloff and I believe, I can't remember the second guy's name. Stay tuned, you'll find out more. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, wherever you are. Make it TFR.
And then he touch that dial.
Yeah, peace out, folks. Take care. See you tomorrow.